Hello students. So today we are going to talk about John Keats' poem Ode to the Nightingale. First of all, I'm going to explain and discuss with you what is an ode. As already done in the literary terms video, I've discussed with you, ode is a poem which is addressed to someone specific. When I say addressed, it means maybe, in the name of someone, maybe in praise of someone, maybe in salutation to someone. So ode is a poem which is addressed to someone. It could be something like, this is the bird. So it is, this poem is written or addressed to the bird Nightingale. And John Keats was a romantic poet, as we all know. And the romantics were in love with nature. They would have heightened imaginations. They would take flights of imagination to the world unknown, where we generally call it a world of utopia, where there is happiness, blissfulness everywhere. And finally, we shall see that Keats, as per the tradition of his poems, he comes back in the last stanza of his poem back to the reality, the gross reality, harsh reality of life. So we begin with the poem Ode to Nightingale by John Keats. Now, first I'd like to introduce John Keats as poet and placing him in the tradition of the English literature. So, Keats, when he was living with his friend Charles Armitage Brown in Hampstead, he saw this nightingale building a nest close to his house, and he was so influenced. Now, nightingale in Punjab or in Hindi Punjabi is koel, as we all know. So he was so influenced, so deeply touched by the music of Nightingale and the joy that music gave him, the happiness it would spread. He was so impressed that he wrote, or he admired and he wrote in admiration this poem. And Nightingale means the night songstress. Now in this poem we're going to see various themes of the poems, like we'll see pain versus pleasure, reality versus transcendence, melancholy is udasi, sorrow, experience of beauty, sensuousness and passion, search for joy, escapism, fleeing away, moving out of this hard reality of pain, immortality, timelessness, mythical imagery, mythical Greek imagery is used, idealism and skepticism, romanticism and aesthetic beauty. I shall keep on explaining each and every word as soon as we go to the next part. Now, Keats starts the poem by describing his experience of excessive joy, excessive overjoyfulness, and that, his joy is now turning into pain when he hears the song of Nightingale. The poem begins like, my heart aches and a drowsy numbness pains. Aches, it pains. Drowsy, we all know. And then we talk about numbness, the feelinglessness which we have. So on hearing the song, his five senses, why is Keats even called a poet of sensuousness? Because his poems just do not touch one senses out of the five senses which human have. They touch all the five senses. So he says his five senses, they seem to be overpowered, overtaken by this song, by sleep and dullness, and it seems as if he has drunk hemlock. Hemlock is now a drink of a plant which makes you unconscious. Or he says, I have drunk some water from the river Leith. Now, Leith is a Greek river, and it is believed in mythology, Greek mythology, that this anyone who drinks water out of this river, he forgets everything. So he he assures the Nightingale that he's not jealous of her. In fact, he's very happy to hear, and he's very lucky to hear his song and his beautiful voice, and he's very joyous. But he says, in this happiness also, he feels a little pain. He sees a little problem. So now going back, when was this poem written? This poem is written in 1819 and was first published in the Annals of Five Arts, and it consists of 8 stanzas of 10 lines each. Now these 10 lines consists of Shakespearean quatrain. Quatrain means 4 lines, and a Petrarchan sestet. Now what do we say sestet? It means 6 lines. So 4 and 6 is 14. So it's almost kind of a ode in a way. Now in the second stanza, the Nightingale is giving him, the poet, so much pleasure that he tells about his urge of having pure wine from Provence. Now, Provence is a place in Scotland where wines are made, and you know how wine is made? It is, they're made and put in the wooden caskets, big drums of wood, and then they are buried in the ground. And then, people, they, over the years, they are kept there, and after so many years, they're brought out, and, then it gives you a lovely taste. And because people are living on that ground, they're dancing, singing, they've made their houses around that place. So that wine somehow tastes of flora and country green. He says that he would love to drink wine from Hippocrene. Again, a Greek mythology being used. It's a sacred fountain, and it is believed that Greek poets used to drink water out of that to get inspiration. So he says that when I hear your song, I think that I may have, had wine from Provence, or I might have had water from Hippocrene. So he says that it makes him intoxicated. Now, third stanza, he's again talking to Nightingale, and he tells her that world is all about sorrow. It's all pain. Hard reality is suffering. And Nightingale does not know about this at all. And everyone is, deep into this weariness, tiredness. Fret is again frown and fever. And the youth, the people, young people are becoming pale, they are becoming dull, they do not have that glow because they all have, pressures, stresses, targets to achieve. And Keats himself is in stress because he has lost his brother Tom because of tuberculosis disease. And he says that I myself believe that I also will be short-lived, and, I don't know, I'll be successful in love or not. These are all these things. He keeps on telling the Nightingale that life is not all about happiness. In the fourth stanza, he's again very depressed because he's now sick and he wants to leave the world. He wants to escape from the pains of real life. And I was talking about escapism. This is where escapism comes. And he wishes to fly into the world of imagination on the wings of poetry. He says, when I hear your song, it takes me into another world, and it's the same world which is, a person who drinks wine or who has, some intoxicating thing to eat or drink. Only that person can easily escape. He forgets all the stresses and tensions and pains and suffering of the hard reality. So he says, I want to fly on the wings of poetry. So his imagination, he gives you more examples like the queen moon is shining, the stars rise, and he presents a midnight scene. So in the fifth stanza, the poet says that he has traveled into the Nightingale's world and he has seen what beautiful place it was. But he says, I cannot see what flowers are at my feet. But in the emblem darkness guess each sweet. Later he tells that each of these flowers showed that this is the month of May. So he's telling you that it is spring season, May, and there are all flowers all around. So he keeps on talking about the good and the bad around. Now in the 6th stanza, while listening to the song of Nightingale, poet feels death to be more easy and better option in this cruel world. And he's here expressing his wish to escape the real world. And he talks about, death in his poems now on. And he says, even if when I will be dying, I can hear you singing your sweetest melodies in my ears. Now in the 7th stanza, he calls Nightingale as an immortal bird, a bird which will not die, which will be heard over hundreds and hundreds of years, again and again by all the generations. And he says that because your music will pass on from one generation to another. In the last stanza, the poet comes back to the reality, and he has realized that the world of imagination is temporary, transient, short-lived, and one cannot run from the harsh realities of life. He has to come back. He has to say goodbye to his imagination and face the world head on. He will have to make his decisions. So we can say it is a poem of midnight and sorrow and beauty. And he has practiced here the theory of art for art's sake, entertainment. And he says that beauty is everywhere. Then because of his sensuousness, he gives you sense of imagery of night, green trees, nature's beauties, auditory, song of Nightingale. Then he tells you about smell. Then talks about sense of taste, and synesthesia is mingling of the all the senses. Now, which we've already done, so we don't need to. Thank you so much. I request all of you that do comment underneath so that I can be more encouraged to make more videos. Stay tuned into my channel, and in upcoming days you must see my lectures on grammar and more poetry. Thank you so much.